What's up everybody, I'm Alessandro and welcome to The Standardist. Today I'm going to review this baby right here, the Orient Kamasu in green. And you will understand why I use air quotes to say green, because I don't think that this watch is green at all. Does that mean that it's a bad watch? Well, I'll let you the judge of that. Let's jump right into the review. And here it is in all its glory. Now guys, let me begin by saying that Orient completely messed up their green dial. This watch has a teal dial or a petroleum blue dial, and maybe you don't know that, but that's my favorite color. So I don't like blue watches, but this one is a teal watch and you don't get to see that kind of dials all that much. It is absolutely beautiful. So this watch has a sunburst dial, but it's not an in-your-face sunburst effect. It's actually subdued because it's a matte sunburst dial. So the thing is, most of the time you will see this watch this way. So it will look almost black or a very dark teal color. And for that reason, you will check the time on this watch all the time because you will want to get that absolutely gorgeous color. And believe it or not, the camera doesn't see the color of this watch the right way. So when I filmed the watch, it actually looked blue, even if everything in the lighting was correct when it comes to the color temperature. So that's the first time ever that I had to grade the image in order for the watch to appear the right color. I'm telling you guys, it is not blue and it is not green. It's a teal watch. And here it is next to my new Seiko 5 Sports, so that you can see that it's not a green dial or green bezel. So the Seiko 5 Sports has a green dial. That's a proper green. Definitely on the right, the Orient has a teal color. So on this watch you have applied indices, but most of the time you will not see the metal of those indices because they are flat, so they're not faceted. So they will not really reflect the light, and when they do, now you can see it, but then you have the reflection of the light in the crystal, which happens to be a sapphire crystal. But back to this part of the watch, you can see that you have a rehaut, which I love. This is the way I prefer my watches, with a rehaut instead of a chapter ring, because one, I think it looks better, and two, well, it cannot be misaligned. The bezel and bezel insert is very cool as well. So actually the hue is not exactly the same as the dial. It's actually a little bit more green, but it looks amazing. So it's not the same bezel as the Ray. It's a little bit different. It's actually a bit thicker and it's a bit easier to grab, but the action is very different. So you have almost the same action as on a SKX. So you have 120 click, unidirectional obviously, and you have that rattly sound which is completely different from the Orient Ray. Super easy to operate. It's very loud and it almost sounds cheap for some reason, but it's functioning perfectly. You can see that mine is not exactly aligned. It's just a tiny bit on the left, but truth be told guys, you cannot see it because it is not a triangle, because that corner is cut. It's way easier for me not to see that it's not perfectly aligned. Now on the bezel insert, you have a dot every single minute, which is my favorite kind of bezels, and you have a loomed pip which is recessed, so there's no way you can scratch it or even lose it. So actually for me that's a home run when it comes to the bezel on this watch. Super easy to operate, looks good. You have those dots every minute and it complements the look of the watch perfectly. And this has become one of my favorite handset ever. So you have that kind of triangle, which actually is an arrow for the hour hand, but it's not too broad, not too big, not shouting, not overpowering like a Seiko Monster could be. And then you have that sword hand for the minute hand. That second hand, which is sweeping, as you can see, has a red tip, which is a good thing because it matches the red that you have on the logo, which doesn't appear to be applied, but rather embossed from the dial. But it's very legible, and even when the light hits the crystal, you can tell the time, no problem. So if you know about the Orient Ray, well, the case of this one is very close. It's not the same, but it's very close. So you also get those curved lugs, which help hug the wrist, even for small wrists. You have brushed lugs on the top, polished on the side. It has a case size of 41.5 millimeters, a lug-to-lug distance of 47 millimeters, a thickness of 13 millimeters, and a lug width of 22 millimeters. Unfortunately, this one didn't go down to 20 millimeters, which I think would have suited this watch much better. And I would say that's the only gripe I have with this case and watch and bracelet, it's the lug width. You have a sign crown on this model, but it's not deep etched. It's like some kind of surface etching, but it's still cool to have this kind of detail. Now the crown is pretty small, so it's not super easy to grip, and it's even harder to actually put back into place when you have to push and then turn in order to get it back to its position, because as you guys have guessed, this is a screw down crown, which goes very well with the fact that this watch has 200 meters of water resistance. Now, to be fair, overall, I don't think there's anything exciting about this case. It does the job all right, but the good thing is because it is curved and not too big, it actually works very well on smaller wrists, as you will see in just a few minutes. When it comes to the case back, well, there's nothing to talk about really. You have a solid case back with two cheesy dolphins engraved. I don't think you will spend a lot of time staring at this thing from this angle. I mean, the star of the show is clearly this side. Inside this watch, you have the Orient F6922 automatic in-house movement, which beats at 21,600 vibrations per hour. Mine is pretty fast at plus 12.1 seconds a day, but the good thing is that it's pretty consistent, so it doesn't matter if I wear the watch or if I put it on the table. It's pretty much always plus 12 seconds a day, as you can see on this chart. I could go ahead and open the watch and regulate it to maybe plus 2 seconds a day, but I don't want to break the water resistance and I don't care all that much, so I'm just gonna let it run fast. That's okay for me. Okay, let's move on to the bracelet, and this is probably the worst thing about this watch. It's not bad, but it's certainly not great. You can see here you have two dents on the first link because the way it is constructed, well, that link actually hits the end link here, and you have then those two dents. Same thing on the other side of the watch here. So clearly here, Orient didn't think this through. I would have loved this bracelet to be, as I told you, 20 millimeters and not 22, and maybe taper a little bit more. So the bracelet is actually brushed all the way, so there's no shiny part like you would find on the Orient Ray, which I think is a good thing. It is polished on the side, and the links are held together with a simple push pin system. It has hollow end links. Obviously, we would have loved to see solid end links. The clasp is made of pressed metal. It is sand, as you can see. It closes with a reassuring sound and it doesn't go anywhere. And then you have a fold over clasp. One last thing here, you can see that there's a tiny bit of metal right here, which doesn't allow the bracelet to fold from this axis, not that one. So sometimes it feels a little bit weird on the wrist. Told you guys, not the best bracelet, not the best clasp. I would have loved to see something else, but hey, it does the job all right, and you can always change the bracelet for a leather band. Okay, it's time to check the lume against my SKX 013. And guys, if you like lume, you will love the Kamasu. It's actually brighter than my Seiko SKX. So if you want to check the time in the middle of the night, no problem, because the lume on this thing is very bright. Okay, let me put it on so that you can see how it looks like on my 6-inch wrist, and I think it looks great. So the short lug-to-lug distance and the curved lugs actually help with the fact that this watch hugs my wrist, and it's actually very comfortable to wear. The funny thing is that because the bracelet is so wide, you have more metal, so actually it balances the weight of the watch, so it doesn't feel top heavy, and because it is wide, well, it stays in place, so there's no weird twisting, and for that reason, it's actually very comfortable to wear. So that's surprising. That's a 42mm watch on a 6-inch wrist, but for me, it works just perfectly. I love it. And here it is on my 6-inch wrist as seen from a distance. I think it works just fine. Some people told me that they don't like this watch because they think it's too big. For me, this is the perfect size. I think this works better than my SKX 013. It's chunky, which you don't have with this watch. And because the bezel on this one is smaller than the case, it actually appears more like a 40mm watch and not a 42mm watch, which I think is a good thing. Now, this watch is available in green, as we've just seen, but you can have it with that crazy red Sunburst Dial, which is super interesting as well. It's available in black, in blue, and then you have a black PVD case with gold accent, and then you have the limited edition. And as usual, guys, you will find links to all these watches in the description below. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. Is this the actual proper SKX replacement? Let me answer that question by talking about the value for money of this watch, and I want to remind you that I will post a comparison video of the Orient Kamasu and the brand new Seiko 5 Sports and the Seiko SKX and the Orient Ray on this channel. So if you don't want to miss it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check the little bell icon so you know exactly when this video is published. You know, I've seen a lot of comments on my previous video where I reviewed the brand new Seiko 5 Sports about the fact that the brand new Seiko 5 Sport is not an SKX replacement, not a proper one, and I cannot argue with that. Depending on where you're getting this watch, you will have to pay between under $200 to $300 depending on the dial color and the stocks, obviously. And for that kind of money, you're getting 200 meters of water resistance, a screw-down crown, a sapphire crystal, applied indices, and no misaligned chapter ring because there's none. So that's easy. And I think that for that kind of money, you have great specs and a great dressy diver that you can wear in pretty much any occasion. I've been wearing this baby in a business environment and with casual outfits, and it just works perfectly. I mean, this could very well be your one watch if you're aiming for a one watch collection. So from a pure value for money perspective, I think that this is a great watch. I told you guys the Bracelet is not great. It's certainly not bad, but it's average and it's pretty much on par with what you can find on the Orient Ray or the brand new Seiko 5. But you can always swap it for a leather band, which I think looks great on this watch, or a NATO strap, and all of a sudden you have, for me, like the perfect watch. I think that a dressy diver is probably the most versatile watch that you can have in your collection. I was a little bit afraid that the teal color wouldn't go with too many colors, but actually it's the opposite. I never found a color that would completely clash with that teal to the point where it just wouldn't work. Probably because the dial is very, very dark as well. So it's a super versatile watch. It's very good looking as well. And if you just want to go for one watch, this is a hell of a choice. But back to the SKX versus Seiko 5 Sport thing. Now, here's the thing. Everybody's complaining about the fact that the brand new Seiko 5 is more expensive. That is true, but that's the MSRP. Just wait for the thing to go down in price, because I guess that you will be able to pick these for around $250, maybe less. So if you want to go for that SKX look, you're pretty much doomed. You have to go for the real deal or go for a brand new Seiko 5 Sports. But if you're going for the specs and the fact that you have a versatile watch, yes, I think that this one is the proper SKX replacement. Now, you guys probably know that Orient is part of the Seiko Epson Corporation, which is pretty funny when you think about it. Why is it that Seiko cannot deliver this kind of value for money anymore, but they can with Orient? And the more I see and wear Orient watches, the more I think that Orient is actually becoming the new Seiko, offering great designs with great specs for a fair price. And I think that in that regard, the Orient Kamasu delivers no problem. It's a great watch. Guys, if you like this video, please hit that like button and let me know in the comment section below what you think about the Orient Kamasu. Would you be interested in picking one of those? And if that's the case, why is it so? And which colorway would you go for? Please share with everybody in the comment section below. Don't forget about the comparison video which is coming on this channel. If you don't want to miss it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check the little bell icon so that you know exactly when I've dropped that video. And in the meantime, thank you so much for dropping by. Stay stylish and keep watching.